You are. If a man is on your mind all the time, understand this clearly. This is not accidental. It is not imaginary, and it is not one-sided in the way you fear. You are. The human mind does not cling to a person without psychological cause. We are not wired to obsess over strangers. You are. Nor do we emotionally replay the presence of someone who left no imprint on us. When someone repeatedly returns to your thoughts, you are. It is because an emotional exchange has already taken place beneath the surface, and whether you realize it or not, that exchange is affecting him too. You are. You must recognize that attention is a form of connection. When your mind keeps circling back to him, you are. It means he has crossed from being a casual presence into being psychologically significant. And significance is never silent. You are. The first thing already happening to him is this: he is thinking about you more than he admits, even to himself. The mind mirrors attachment. You are. If he occupies space in your thoughts, you occupy space in his. He may try to distract himself, bury it in routine, convince himself it is nothing. You are. But the return of your image into his mind keeps happening because emotional memory does not fade quietly. It repeats. You are. The second thing happening is that he feels your absence more than he expected. Absence has a strange way of revealing value. When you are not there, you are. When you are not texting, not calling, not appearing in his daily rhythm, he begins to feel a gap he cannot logically explain. You are. He notices moments where he wishes you were present. He notices silence where your voice used to be. And this is where the emotional weight grows. Because now you are. Your presence is not just remembered, it is missed. The third thing already happening is that he is comparing you to others without realizing it. You are. This is a powerful psychological sign. When a person starts measuring everyone else against the memory of you, it means you have set an emotional standard. You are. He may meet other women, talk to them, laugh with them, but something feels slightly off, slightly incomplete. He cannot articulate it. You are. But he knows something is missing. That missing piece is the emotional impression you left behind. The fourth thing is that he is replaying conversations, moments. You are. Expressions. Memory is selective. The brain replays what matters. He is thinking about things you said, the way you reacted, the way you smiled, the tone in your voice. You are. These details return because they carry emotional charge. The mind does not replay neutral moments, it replays meaningful ones. You are. And he is experiencing that replay more often than he lets on. The fifth thing happening is subtle but powerful. He feels drawn toward you even when he resists it. You are. This internal pull creates conflict. Part of him wants to reach out, to reconnect, to re-enter your presence. Another part of him hesitates. You are. Unsure why the urge is so strong. This tension between desire and hesitation is a clear sign of emotional investment. Indifference does not create inner conflict. You are. Only connection does. The sixth thing already happening is that he is more emotionally affected by what you do than he wants to admit. If you seem distant, you are. It bothers him. If you appear happy without him, it unsettles him. If you don't respond the way you used to, he notices. You are. Your emotional state influences his emotional state because the connection between you is still active, even in silence. You are. That influence does not exist unless he cares deeply. And the seventh thing, perhaps the most important, is this: you are. He is slowly realizing that you matter more to him than he expected. This realization does not come as a dramatic moment. It comes quietly through repeated thoughts. You are. Unexplained feelings and the persistent return of your presence into his mind. He may not say it, he may not act on it immediately, but internally, you are. The understanding is forming. You must understand something critical here. When a man is on your mind constantly, it is not a sign of weakness in you. You are. It is a sign of an emotional thread that still connects both of you. And emotional threads do not disappear without resolution. You are. They either grow stronger through reconnection or they fade slowly through conscious detachment, but they do not simply vanish. You are. So do not dismiss what you feel as imagination. Do not reduce it to overthinking. The human psyche is far more precise than that. You are. Your mind is reacting to a connection that still exists. And while you sit wondering why you cannot stop thinking about him, you are. He is experiencing his own version of that same quiet, persistent pull, because emotional presence is powerful. Before people return physically, they return mentally. You are. Before they speak again, they think again. Before they reach out, they feel again. And right now, without you seeing it, without you hearing it, you are. Without him confessing it, those processes are already happening within him. The question is not whether he feels it. You are. The question is how long it will take before he can no longer ignore it. Attention is not random. If he's constantly on your mind, you are. An emotional loop is already formed between you, and this loop did not appear out of nowhere. It was built moment by moment through shared presence. You are. Unspoken understanding, emotional signals, and subtle exchanges that left an imprint deeper than either of you realized at the time. You are. The human mind does not hold on to someone without reason. You are. We are not designed to replay the image of a person repeatedly unless that person has crossed into psychological significance. You are. When someone lives in your thoughts without invitation, it means a connection has already rooted itself in the emotional core of your mind. You are. And what you must understand is that this kind of connection is rarely one-sided. The very nature of emotional attachment is reciprocal, even when it is silent, you are. Even when it is unspoken, even when pride, distance, or confusion tries to hide it. If he is returning to your thoughts again and again, you are. It is because you are returning to his in ways he may not even consciously admit to himself. You must stop thinking that you are overthinking. You are. You are observing a pattern your mind recognizes before logic can explain it. Memory is selective and it replays what carries emotional weight. You are. You do not mentally revisit people who meant nothing to you. You are. The fact that your mind keeps circling back to him is evidence that something meaningful occurred between you, something that has not yet reached closure. You are. Emotional experiences do not disappear simply because time passes. They remain active beneath the surface, waiting for resolution, waiting for clarity. You are. Waiting for acknowledgement. And while you sit wondering why you cannot stop thinking about him, he is experiencing his own quiet version of this loop. You are. Because emotional presence works in both directions. If you feel his absence deeply, he feels the shift in your presence as well. You are. He notices when you are not there in the way you used to be. He senses when your energy changes. He feels the difference in communication. You are. Even if he cannot fully explain why it affects him. This is how emotional bonds operate. You are. They create awareness between two people that does not rely on constant interaction. Even silence becomes loud. Even distance becomes noticeable. You are. There is something happening inside him that he may be trying to ignore. He finds himself remembering conversations you had, moments you shared. You are. Expressions on your face, the tone of your voice. These details do not resurface randomly. The brain only replays what carries emotional charge. You are. And the more these memories return, the more he begins to realize that your presence had a deeper impact on him than he initially understood. You are. This realization does not arrive dramatically. It comes slowly through repetition of thought, through small reminders that appear at unexpected moments. You are. Through the quiet awareness that you mattered. At the same time, he may try to distract himself. He may attempt to focus on other things, meet other people. You are. Fill his time with activity, but the emotional standard you set does not fade easily. When someone leaves a strong emotional impression, you are. Others begin to feel slightly incomplete in comparison. He may not consciously compare, but subconsciously he feels the difference. Something is missing. You are. Something familiar, something that once felt natural and comforting, and that absence keeps pulling him back to thoughts of you. He also feels an internal conflict. You are. A part of him wants to reach out, to reconnect, to restore what was once there. Another part hesitates, unsure why the pull is so strong, unsure what it means. You are. Unsure how to approach it. This tension is a clear sign of emotional investment. Indifference does not create inner struggle. Only connection does. You are. Only attachment creates the discomfort of wanting and resisting at the same time. And you must recognize the most important part of this entire situation. You are. If he is on your mind constantly, it is because the emotional thread between you is still active. Emotional threads do not disappear quietly. You are. They either grow through reconnection or fade through conscious detachment, but they do not vanish without process. You are. Your mind is responding to a bond that has not yet been resolved. You are feeling the echo of a connection that still exists in some form within him as well. You are. This is why you should not dismiss what you feel as imagination or weakness. This is not weakness. This is awareness. You are. Your mind is recognizing something that your logic is trying to deny. And while you sit wondering why you cannot stop thinking about him, you are. He is experiencing his own silent recognition that you mattered more than he expected, that your presence affected him more deeply than he realized. You are. And that your absence is more noticeable than he wants to admit. Because before people return physically, they return mentally. Before they speak again, you are, they think again. Before they reach out, they feel again. And right now, without you seeing it, without him saying it, Those processes are already unfolding within him. You are. The emotional loop you feel is not a fantasy. It is a sign of a connection that is still alive, still active, still working beneath the surface of both your minds. You are waiting for the moment when it can no longer be ignored. Human psychology mirrors attachment. What occupies your thoughts often reflects mutual emotional impact. You are, because the mind does not repeatedly return to a person without a reason rooted in emotional experience. And when someone lives in your thoughts without effort, you are. It is a signal that something meaningful has already passed between you at a level deeper than casual interaction. The human brain is designed to conserve energy. You are. To forget what is unimportant, to release what holds no value, yet it stubbornly refuses to let go of people who have touched us emotionally. You are. And this refusal is not weakness, it is evidence. When a man occupies your mind consistently, you are. It means an emotional exchange has taken place that left a psychological imprint on both sides, whether spoken or silent, acknowledged or ignored. You are. You are not imagining the significance. You are observing the effect of a bond that has not yet reached resolution. You are. What you must understand is that attachment is rarely one directional. Emotional energy travels in two directions, even when communication stops. You are. If your thoughts keep circling back to him, it is because the connection formed between you is still active beneath the surface. He may be living his life. You are. Going through routines, appearing unaffected on the outside, but internally he experiences the subtle pull of memory, the unexpected return of moments you shared. You are. The quiet realization that your presence mattered more than he initially understood. These thoughts appear without invitation, just as yours do. You are, because the emotional thread between you still exists. The mind replays what carries emotional charge. It does not replay neutral faces or meaningless conversations. You are. It replays expressions, words, laughter, tension, silence, and moments where something real was felt. He remembers how you reacted to things, the tone of your voice. You are. The way you looked at him, because these details are stored in emotional memory. And every time they return, you are. They reinforce the understanding that what existed between you was not ordinary. It was significant enough to resist fading. At the same time, you are. He begins to notice your absence in subtle ways. He feels the gap where your presence used to be. He notices moments when he wishes you were there to share a thought. You are, a joke or a reaction. This awareness grows quietly. It does not announce itself loudly. It builds through small reminders that appear throughout his day. You are, reminding him that something familiar is missing. Absence reveals value more clearly than presence ever did. He may try to distract himself, to fill his time. You are. To meet others, to move forward without examining why your image keeps returning to his mind. You are. But emotional impressions do not disappear simply because we choose not to think about them. They resurface when least expected. And when he meets new people, you are, he subconsciously compares them to the emotional standard you set. Something feels slightly off, slightly incomplete, because they do not carry the same familiarity. You are, the same emotional resonance you once provided. This creates an internal conflict within him. A part of him feels drawn towards you, pulled by memory and feeling. You are. Another part resists, unsure how to interpret this pull, unsure whether to act on it. This tension is proof of emotional investment. You are. Indifference does not create confusion. Only connection does. Only attachment creates the discomfort of wanting to reach out while simultaneously holding back. You are. You must also recognize that your emotional state influences his, even from a distance. If you seem distant, he senses it. If you appear happy without him, you are. It affects him more than he expects. If you stop reaching out, he notices the silence more than he admits. You are. This is because emotional bonds create awareness between two people that does not rely on constant contact. The connection operates quietly, beneath words. You are, beneath actions, beneath appearances. The reason you cannot stop thinking about him is the same reason he cannot fully stop thinking about you. You are. Your mind is responding to an unresolved emotional loop. His mind is doing the same, even if he has not consciously recognized it yet. You are. Emotional presence often returns mentally before it returns physically. Before he speaks, he thinks. Before he reaches out, he feels. You are. And those thoughts and feelings are already forming within him. Do not dismiss what you feel as imagination or overthinking. You are. Your mind is recognizing a bond that logic cannot easily explain. You are experiencing the echo of a connection that still exists. You are. And while you sit wondering why he occupies your thoughts so persistently, he is going through his own quiet process of realizing that you mattered. You are, that your presence left a lasting impact, and that your absence is more noticeable than he wants to admit. You are. because human psychology mirrors attachment in ways we often overlook. What occupies your thoughts is rarely random. It is the reflection of emotional significance you are, of moments that carried weight, of a bond that has not yet faded. And right now, without you seeing it, without him saying it, you are. The same emotional mirror is operating in his mind as well, keeping you present in his thoughts just as persistently as he remains in yours. You are. Subtle behaviors reveal hidden connection long before words do. You are. Because human beings communicate far more through what they do unconsciously than through what they choose to say deliberately. You are. And when a man feels something he has not yet admitted to himself, it begins to show in the smallest actions that escape his control. You are. Before he ever speaks about his feelings, before he ever confesses what is happening inside him, his behavior starts to shift in quiet. You are. Almost invisible ways that only someone paying close attention can notice. He looks for you in rooms without realizing it. You are. His eyes search for your presence even when his mind is focused elsewhere. He responds to you a little faster than he does to others. You are. He remembers small details you once mentioned that most people would forget. These are not random acts. You are. These are signs of emotional investment operating beneath his awareness. You must understand that the heart often moves before the mouth does. Words are filtered. You are. Measured, protected by pride and fear. Behavior is raw, honest, and difficult to control. If he feels a connection with you that he has not yet put into language, you are. It will show in how he positions himself around you, how he listens when you speak, how his attention sharpens when you are near. He may not say you matter, you are, but his actions quietly prove that you do. He may try to appear calm, neutral, unaffected, but his body and behavior betray the truth he is not ready to voice. You are. Watch how he reacts when you pull away slightly. If he notices immediately, if his energy shifts, if he becomes more attentive or more curious, that is not coincidence. You are. That is emotional awareness. Indifference does not notice absence quickly. Only attachment does. You are. Only someone who feels connected becomes sensitive to changes in your behavior. He might ask small questions, check in more often. You are. Or find reasons to start conversations that seem casual but are actually attempts to maintain closeness. Notice how he behaves when you talk to other people. You are. There may be a slight tension, a subtle shift in expression, a change in tone. He may become quieter or more observant. You are. He may try to insert himself into the conversation without realizing why he feels the urge. This is not possessiveness in its loud form. You are. This is emotional interest revealing itself in quiet, almost unnoticeable reactions that happen before he can control them. You are. He might also mirror you without realizing it. Your way of speaking, your phrases, your habits may start appearing in his behavior. You are. This mirroring is a powerful psychological sign of connection. We naturally imitate those we feel emotionally drawn to. He may adopt your humor, your expressions. You are. Even your preferences, not because he plans to, but because emotional closeness creates unconscious alignment. Another subtle sign appears in how he remembers you. You are. He brings up past moments you shared in random conversations. He refers to things you said days or weeks ago. He connects current experiences to memories involving you. You are. This is the mind's way of keeping you present in his reality. When someone does this, you are. It means you are occupying space in his thoughts, even when you are not physically there. Pay attention to how he finds excuses to be around you. You are. These excuses may seem ordinary, practical, even accidental, but they happen repeatedly. He chooses the seat near you. He lingers a little longer in conversation. You are. He walks with you when he could have taken another path. These are small decisions that reveal a larger emotional desire to remain close without having to explain why. You are. You may also notice that he reacts differently to your emotions than to others. If you seem upset, he becomes more attentive. If you are happy, he appears lighter. You are. If you are distant, he becomes curious. Your emotional state influences him more than it should if you were just another person in his life. You are. This influence is not logical. It is emotional, and it shows long before he can articulate what he feels. You are. The most important thing to realize is that these subtle behaviors are more honest than any words he might eventually say. Words can be delayed, denied, or disguised. You are. Behavior leaks truth. And when you start seeing these patterns repeatedly, you are witnessing the evidence of a hidden connection growing quietly beneath the surface. You are. This is why you should trust what you observe more than what you hear. If his actions consistently show attention, awareness, and subtle efforts to stay connected, you are. It means something meaningful is happening inside him that he has not yet translated into language. Emotional realization often begins in behavior. You are, then moves to thought, and only later becomes speech. So when you find yourself wondering whether the connection you feel is real, look at the small things. You are. Look at the way he acts when he thinks no one is watching. Look at how he responds when you change your energy. Look at how he positions himself in your presence. You are. Because long before he ever says what he feels, his behavior has already been quietly revealing it to you. Emotional presence precedes physical presence. You are. The bond starts in the mind before it shows in reality, because no meaningful connection between two people begins with touch, proximity, or routine interaction. You are. It begins in thought, in attention, in the quiet space where one person starts to occupy the inner world of another without permission and without effort. You are. Before two people stand close to each other, they begin by standing in each other's minds. Before conversations become frequent, memories become frequent. You are. Before messages are sent, thoughts are repeated. This is the true origin of connection, and it is invisible at first. You are. Operating silently beneath the surface while everything on the outside appears ordinary. You must understand that the mind is the first place where attachment forms. You are. When someone starts appearing in your thoughts repeatedly, when their image interrupts your day without warning, you are. When you replay moments you shared as if they just happened, this is not imagination, it is emotional presence taking shape. You are. And what is powerful about this stage is that it does not require physical contact to grow. It builds quietly through memory, through imagination, through reflection. You are, until the emotional connection becomes strong enough that physical presence simply becomes an expression of what already exists internally. You are. If you are experiencing this, if he is constantly on your mind, it means the bond has already begun in the place where it matters most. You are. And what you may not realize is that he is experiencing a similar internal process. He may not be aware of it yet. You are. He may not understand why you keep returning to his thoughts, but emotional presence works in both directions. You are. It creates a silent awareness between two people that does not depend on constant communication. Even in absence, you are. The connection remains active because it lives in the mind. He begins to remember small details about you without trying. He recalls the way you spoke, you are, the way you reacted, the way you looked at him. These memories do not return randomly. The brain replays what carries emotional meaning, and as these memories repeat, you are, they strengthen the emotional presence you hold in his inner world, you are. This repetition slowly builds understanding within him that you mattered more than he initially thought. At the same time, you are. He may start to feel your absence in subtle ways. He notices moments where he wishes you were present. He thinks about how you would react to certain situations. You are. He imagines conversations that are not happening. This is emotional presence at work. You are there in his mind even when you are not there in his environment. You are. And this stage is powerful because it creates a sense of familiarity and attachment before physical closeness ever becomes necessary. He may try to distract himself. You are. To focus on other things, but emotional presence does not disappear simply because attention is redirected. It waits quietly and returns when his mind is unoccupied. You are. It returns when he is alone, when he is relaxed, when he is not actively trying to avoid it. And each time it returns, you are. It strengthens the bond that is forming beneath his awareness. You are. What makes this stage so significant is that it often happens before either person admits what is happening. There are no confessions yet, no declarations. You are. No clear conversations, just repeated thoughts, quiet feelings, and an increasing sense that the other person is becoming emotionally important. You are. This is where real bonds are formed, not in dramatic moments, but in these silent repetitions of thought and feeling. You are. You must recognize that when emotional presence becomes strong, physical presence becomes inevitable. Because once someone occupies your inner world consistently, you are. You begin to desire their outer presence. You want to see them, hear them, be near them, not because you decided to, you are, but because the emotional bond has already created that desire naturally. This is why you should not dismiss what you feel. If he is constantly on your mind, you are. It means the connection has already started in the most powerful place. And while you wonder why this is happening, you are. He is experiencing his own quiet realization that you are becoming significant in his thoughts as well, because before people reconnect physically, you are. They reconnect mentally. Before they reach out, they remember. Before they speak, they feel. And right now, without you seeing it, without him saying it, you are. This mental connection is already shaping the possibility of what may happen next. Emotional presence has already laid the foundation. You are. Physical presence is simply the next expression of a bond that has been forming silently in the mind all along.